So the sugya that we chose for this evening is, I think, a pretty loaded sugya. It's a sugya that has ramifications not only for Purim, but also, I think, for modern day Israel, for modern day many different understandings of whether it's women soldiers having neshek, I think it could be connected to within the sugya of women wearing pants also, women wearing tzitzit, not that I'm encouraging it all, but just you just have to watch it yourself. People have quoting me left and right, or really not quoting me, but like once in a while when they want to quote me, so I just have to be careful here. And obviously connected to Purim and to wedding. That's at least 5 or 6 ramifications of understanding what is the Isur in Parshat Kitetse of Lo Yech Li Gever Al Isha, Lo Yilbash Gever Simlat Isha, Ki To'avat Adonai Lecha Kol Osei Eila. As we said, the real, why we've gathered here tonight, if you will, is dealing with what the Ramah later on in page 6 in Hilchot Purim, Siman Tov Reis Tzadik Vav, says that there's a minhag. He quotes from the Mahari Mintz, which we will see later, page 6 in the middle, where he says, "Umashinagu lilbosh partzufim b'Purim, v'gever lovesh simlat isha v'isha kli gever." He talks about whether it's usher, whether it's not usher. So I want to talk about that piece, and again, I think it has ramifications all over. Whether you can dress up with the opposite gender or not. Question of why you really want to. That's a different psychological question, which is not for this shiur. I don't know about you, but I think when I was in my yeshiva year, and I think the thing to do when my rebbeim were in Har Nof, like the cool thing to do. Is that for sure? Like I felt like going in Har Nof. Like what was the costume? The costume was that the guy would wear the what?
Fez hat.
What's a fez hat?
Okay,
those are the kids. No, isn't that the kids? Everyone. What else? There's another thing else. Is what? The guy wears the wife's sheitel. Never seen that before? That I saw all the time. It's like that was like the piece. Using this one. Sorry. That was the piece. So the question is, what's that? Maybe is there something that's based on there? So the question is, when you read the pasuk, and again in the context, again if I had, I already cut down a lot of the sources. It's hard to believe, but there's another 2 tshuvos. Another tshuva that's connected to this is about men looking in a mirror. It's a tshuva by Rav Moshe. There's a tshuva by Rav Avad Yosef. We'll bring it up, but important tshuvot. I try when I try to bring in the sources, not only knowing that you're not going to cover all of them, but if you ever want to give this shiur for yourself, if you ever want the sources, that you should have them. So with that introduction, what is the nature of this Isser? And again, what I was about to say is the context of the pasuk. You always have to look at the context of the psukim. And already some of the Meforshim bring it down, but it's in right next to what? Ki teitzela melchama al oivecha, the parsha of Ishet Yifat Toar. And right after that, a couple psukim later, right, comes the Lo Yechi, there is an interruption, but there comes Lo Yechli Gever Al Isha, Lo Yobash Gever Simlat Isha, Ki Toavat Hashem Elecha Kol Osei. So even within the pasuk, what is the abomination? Is the abomination the result? Is the abomination the description? So I'd venture to ask you of 3 different definitions of what is the Isur. When you read some of the Mefarshim already, tell me what you think. What is the Isur of this cross-dressing? A man wants to dress up as a woman. What's the Isur? What is the Isur, if you will? 3 different possible, I think, conceptual definitions to define the Isur. And again, how the Torah defines the Isur will obviously have a tremendous ramification on how we understand it in the halachot. Anybody see anything that they want to venture? Go ahead, Natan. Pritzut. Meaning, explain what you mean.
That
It's just not proper.
It's not proper. Meaning that what? That the actual wearing of the garments of the opposite gender is an act of, in itself is a negative act. Right? It's pritzut. It's maybe a toiva. Right? Ki toavat Hashem kol oseila might be the description of what it is. For example, who did you see that you might have said that?
Right here, the Chizkuni.
So that seemingly is what the Chizkuni starts off saying. Lo yechli gaber al isha lefi shehu gnai upritzut. And he gives a example from Tanakh. Okay? And he talks about the smichut parshiot of the milchama. The possible, I think, meaning, so within that definition, there's what's called isur be'etzem, which means that in and of itself, the act, don't give me any svaras of what's going to lead to whatever it is. In and of itself, it's an isur be'etzem to put on a woman's garment or vice versa. There is, I think, one other opinion within that. If I had to, I think, define it, would be the second way the Sefer HaChinuch brings down the isur. On the first page in front of you, when he quotes about the Sharshei mitzvah, what the root of the mitzvah is, he says va'od, the last part. He says va'od amru b'tam, the rationale behind this mitzvah is laharchik kol inyan avodah zara, shedarkan shel ovdei avodah zara hayeh bekach. Right? It was a derech of avodah to cross-dress, meaning it's not coming to lead. This is what people. It's an isser be'etzem. It's the toiva. We've seen toiva also probably by avodah zara. Also, that would be one conceptual framework. The actual ma'isa levisha, the actual without what it might lead to, is a problem. That would be one conceptual framework. What's another conceptual framework? And then we'll get to questions.
You might mislead people.
You might
Mislead people.
You might mislead people. So it's an issue of Genevas Das?
No, I'm just saying, like, women might see you on the street and they'll think, like, oh, is that a woman? Like,
So invite you to coffee, start talking.
I'm saying that's what
Right?
Rashi is saying also.
You have a very dark voice, right? You look like no. I'm just kidding. Okay, yeah, right. So what do you want to say? Say again. Rashi was saying that what?
He's saying, meaning, here Rashi says that you would go and mingle with the women. But
Right. Good. So that Rashi's already picking that up from the Gemara Nazir. Okay, Rashi, it's true. So how would you define it then? What is the Isur? Is the Isur actually wearing the clothes? Or is the Isur as a means that as a result of me wearing these clothes, I'm going to what? Go intermingle and have adultery. How would you define that?
Does it mean intermingle or kind of like mixing the roles of guys and girls? So that may not, it might be with the guys kind
But the question is for what purpose?
of. No,
It's not just Tam Chevra Mirevet over here. That's not what's going on here.
Like talking with the opposite sex, or just saying that you're gonna kind of like take on the role of the guy and not the girl.
Right, I don't think here it's the, I'm missing the right English word for it. That we're afraid you're going to become the woman. You know what I mean? I haven't watched many Jerry Springers in my life. And I'm saying, all these different things. You know what I'm saying? All of a sudden, I'm saying, like, I don't think that's what Rashi was referring to. I think, I could be wrong in my historical context.
No, not like.
What's it called? I've got the answer. It's Purim, everyone. Smile. Yeah.
You're not
Got
gonna
it.
have rules. Physically, I don't know.
Right. That's what I'm referring to.
So
I know you're not referring to that. Go. 1 second.
But
Go ahead.
Whatever. That's surgery. But I'm saying like with like you're gonna start taking on the role of the woman, and the woman's gonna start taking the role of the man. However you define that. But
Right. So you're missing the role. Okay. What'd you say? Who does?
If you look in the Chizkuni, it says
Yeah.
like the woman is created to bring children to the world, and they shouldn't like start mixing in with like in the war and stuff like that. So that's kind of like.
Yeah, but at the same time, it doesn't stop there though. Right? The Chizkuni doesn't stop there. The Chizkuni then continues, V'im, like what Rashi said also, V'im teitzela milchama targil et atzma lidei znut. Right? Or the first statement of the Sefer HaChinuch is what? It's not only that it's a different role, but it's that what's going to happen? as a result of that, you are going to, right? If you look at the Sefer Achina, for example, Hashem hates zima, and He does all measures for us to make sure that we stay away from that idea. V'im ein safek ki im malbushia anashim v'nashim shavim, if they're same clothes, yitarvu elu melu tamid umalar zima, right? So if I had to define that piece, I think there's a 2 and 3 here, right? How would you define it? The Isser is a Isser Ma'aseh of wearing it. It's a built-in one way to do it is another model. I'll give you an example. The other model of the Rambam. The Rambam, there's a model that says, normally when we have a Gzera, usually it's a Gzera Midrabanan. The rabbis come and say, don't do this because you do this, you're going to lead you to do that. As Rav Tversky once said, the point of a Gzera is stay far away from the cliff, because if you get too far from the cliff, you're going to fall off. That's the point of the Gzera. So normally we have Gzerot are Midrabanan, right? But here there are certain times that there are what's called Gzerot Midoraita, meaning it's an Isser Deoraita, but it's a built-in fence that you won't come to do the other Isur. The example is the Rambam in the 21st chapter, I think, of Hilchot Ishut, of Lo Tikravu Legalot Erva, which the Rambam, as opposed to the Ramban, says the Isur of having Chiba, of Nishika and Chiba with the opposite gender, with a Nida, is an Isur Doraita, because it's a built-in Gzera, you might come to actually have the Znut. Right? So what we would purport here to say, a second conceptual framework of the Isser here of Lo Yilbash Gever Simat Isha, which you see possibly in Rashi. Good chance the second part of the Chizkuni, part of the Sefer Achinach, we'll see it actually in the Gemara also, is that it's a built-in Isur Doraita, that what? If you wear the opposite gender's clothes, you will now then what? You will then come to targir yourself to niyuf, znut, zima, whatever you want. There's a third approach, and we'll then try to figure out the nafkaminas between these three approaches. What's the third approach? The third approach would be...
Small question. How far can I take the nafkafu? Take the whole even... No, I'll explain why. So because a lot of times people say, I'm coming over nafkafu, meaning that they might use this reason to dress up as a woman.
That's exactly the point. That's why we have this shit.
No, I know. But
okay, so I'll make sure. Make sure we're all here. You're not drunk yet. It's not the night time. It's all good. We're good. Now, but it's good. We're on the third possible approach. Was it Miss Froelich? Was that the name? Close?
Not at all.
Not at all. Woodmere, I know. Right, Woodmere? Bear Miriam?
Rappaport.
That part we got. Rappaport.
No, I was just going to say that it's a precaution. I mean, it seems like a precaution.
Right,
What
so
Rashi
this was, what we just said is that it's an Isser Ma'aseh as a precaution, but then it could be furthermore that the third way to say it is that the Isser Ma'aseh is only when you're amongst the opposite gender. Meaning, there's no Isser for me in my home to get dressed up like a woman. This would be the third approach. The third approach would be, there is no Isur to get dressed up like the opposite gender in my home. The only Isur would be what? When I'm actually amongst the opposite gender. That would be the third approach. What? Where is that? We will see that. We'll see that. We'll see that, I believe we'll see that within an explanation of the Gemara, sheet of the Rambam. Yeah, Jessica.
I'm not sure that's like a short of the topic, but I'm just understanding the jump that they made. I mean, why is it? You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not sure.
Well, the question comes within just reading the pasuk, which is, what is the rationale behind the pasuk? How do you read? Number one is, what is the ki toavat Hashem kol se'ila? What's the toiva? Is it a description of the act you're doing, or is it what? Is it it's a preventative medicine? That's really part of the question over here, which is that question is how to read that pasuk. Is it the actual act of putting on a woman's clothes? Is it ma'aseh toiva? That was conception number one, right? Statement number two was, in of itself, it's not a ma'aseh toiva, but the rabbi or the Torah is saying, by you doing this, you are going to come to do a toiva, so don't do this. Or number 3 is, the only way that it's a problematic is when you're in the toiva situation. Those are the 3 different ways to read that pasuk.
I just don't understand the connection of like wearing clothes and like I'm not understanding it.
You're not
Maybe
understanding
it's
why.
Like I'm not understanding like why that would have to be.
What's the connection between a toiva and wearing the opposite gender's clothes?
Yeah.
Is that your question?
I mean, maybe it's the pasuk, so I don't
No. But each one. You know what I'm saying? Like, I guess the easier one is like how Ezra was saying is if I start I dressed up like a whole woman, right? And I just get around, all of a sudden that I'm hanging out there and getting to know you, and all of a sudden, you know, the person's putting in the moves and leading to all of a sudden, you know, the woman might get all freaked out for a second, but whatever. You know, we've seen all those, those movies, unfortunately. You know. Okay, Ezra hasn't seen that one. It's okay. Ezra's a very holy Jew. Ezra's like, I haven't seen that one. You know? Okay. The movies in Israel are very expensive. I understand.
Doesn't that seem like it's kind of jumping the gun a little bit?
What is the jump? What's jumping the gun? What am I missing?
Like it might lead to adultery, but I guess I'm kind of agreeing with Jessica.
You're agreeing with Jessica.
It just doesn't seem like it connects. Like one, maybe if you take it so far, but like I just don't see like it at all.
It's because you grew up in a good Jewish home.
I guess
That's what I'm assuming. Grew up in a Jewish home. You're not. What do you mean? Dress up like a girl? I'm gonna go now. Hey, you know what I'm saying? I'm gonna go dress up a guy and hang out with guys. Baruch Hashem, we've been very sheltered, which is good. Yeah. Remind me the name again. I'm sorry. Reese.
Yeah.
From Florida, right? South, north. What? There you go. That's good. Malam Itzchus. That's good. I remember the Reese part, not the New York. I guess Miami. Why do I have Miami? Do you have a friend who came in with you last time from Miami? Is that possible? I have no friends in Miami. I don't like anybody in Miami. Good, Reese. Go.
If the answer is the issue is only when you're in mixed company, wouldn't you like assume that it's like so people don't get confused? So like if it's not for like if it's for people like not getting confused and like thinking that a man is actually a woman type of thing. If a guy has like a beard or anything, if he throws on a wig and a skirt, nobody's gonna think he's a woman. You know what I'm saying?
I'm assuming with nowadays. I don't think you have to tell me like with the cosmetics nowadays. You know, there are miracles that are going on now. That there are miracles. Adina's like, yes. Just go to Facebook. We know what's going on. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know what I'm saying? It's clear. I don't have to tell you about these things. So that's according. So obviously. So that's going to be part of the question. Exactly what you said, Reese, right? That's exactly the point. That's going to be really the nafkamina, depending on how you understand the Isur. These 3 models is if a guy, like we talked about our Haredi person from Harnof, who has the beard, right, has the tzitzis out, wearing the black pants, the blue shirt, and then he has his wife Shetel. So you're saying, like, they're not going to do znus, right? What'd you say? Okay, I mean, I just went even less extreme than you did, right? Good, yeah.
Also, maybe we, an audience, we underestimate the power of clothing. Like,
It's hard for me to even hear that statement, that we underestimate the power of clothing. But yes, because I don't believe that for a second. But I understand what you're saying.
I'm telling myself, I'm sorry.
No, it's fine. No, it's fine. Go ahead.
No, just that if it's hard for us to understand how a woman putting on man's clothing can like
lead to znut.
Right, so we don't realize like how much like that clothing before when she was wearing the clothing as a woman, then like a woman. Sorry, when she was wearing woman's clothing,
right,
then that created a divide. But somehow she's not wearing woman's clothing anymore. That takes away that separation.
Mm-hmm. That's exactly the point. I agree. I really there is the concept. There is. I understood what you said. The idea is that if a man really does a good job, there is a way that there's a certain murevet piece that happens, and it could lead to things. There's no doubt in the 21st century mind, very tummy mind of mine, that it could definitely happen. The nafkamina between the 3 approaches, a little bit what Risi had talked about. Part of it is to look at the Gemara also, which is in the bottom of page 1. The Gemara says as follows. Amar Rav Chia bar Abba Amar Rav Yochanan. The truth is I skipped one important source. The Targum Yonatan ben Uziel. The Targum Yonatan ben Uziel, when he quotes this pasuk, has a fascinating translation. He says, Lo yekli gever al isha. What's that referring to? Tzitzis and tefillin, right? Now, what's interesting here comes again. Sounds like that, especially if we say like the first approach that Natan said, that the definition is it's man's clothing, and there's something isser be'etzem, there's something independently wrong with it. So there's no rationale at all that a woman then would be able to put on tzitzit and tefillin. Now we do know there's major halachic discussions both about tzitzit and tefillin, both of them being mitzvah ashesh zman grama, and especially if you're an Ashkenazi Jew, where women take upon many mitzvot ashesh zman grama, even with a bracha, putting them both out of, I would say, mainstream Orthodox Judaism, that most girls or young ladies or even women do not put on, for sure, tefillin, as the Ramah says not to. But tzitzit, if I'm not mistaken, I couldn't find it very quickly, Rav Moshe has a tshuva saying that if a woman really wants to put on tzitzit, and I wanted to show you their piece, but he comes, if I'm not mistaken, he says something like she has the right intentions, and you make it a pink garment, excuse the sexist piece, even though my son is the one who wants the pink bowl in the morning. We're working on that. But what can you do? You know, the idea is, you're laughing at me and I'm crying in the morning. It's very nice. But the idea, what he's saying, just even the possibility of a woman wearing tzitzit, and as I said, I'm not encouraging it, but the concept that Rav Moshe even has that type of havamina might be, again, depending on how we understand what the isur of wearing the opposite gender's clothes. We'll come back to that daf kamina in a couple of minutes. If we look at the Gemara, in the second to last three sources, the three last sources on the page, Amar Rav Chia, Gemara Nazir, Daf Nun Chesam, Beis Nun Tesam and Aleph, Amar Rav Yochanan. The first lashon of the Gemara is Hamavir Beit Hashechiu Beit Ha'erva Loki. You take out hair from your inner, underneath your, in the private parts, whether, underneath your, over here, what's it called? Loki, you get makos, right? The underarms, that's it. Meitveh, the Breita says, Havarat Seyar is not min ha-Torah, it's only midrabanan. And the assumption of the Gemara is when Rav Yochanan said Loke, it's even Doraita. Says the Gemara, my Loke, what we were talking about, it's only an Issa Durabanan. So from the first language, to remove hair from underneath your arms in those areas is an Issa Durabanan. Ika da Amri, with a second language, that Rav Chia bar Abba Rav Yochanan says that here it talks about something different, not talking about Issa Durabanan, but rather Hamavir Beit Hashechi Ubeit Erba Loke Midoraita. How do I know? Quotes our pasuk. Lo Yobash Gever Simlat Isha. So already, starting from this Gemara already, we're seeing as much as tzitzit and tefillin, as Targum Yonatan ben Uziel, is still a garment. All of a sudden here, from the Gemara, we see we're not necessarily only talking about what? A garment. But we're talking about what? Just from this Gemara, we're doing things that are maybe more womanly, if you're a man, to remove hair from things that are not accepted.
Sorry, can I?
Please, you can, as long as your name's not Rappaport. Go ahead. Go.
How does wearing women's clothing what does that have to do with bathing?
It's exactly what I was just saying. What we're saying at this point, now there's an expansion of what the Isur is. Right? It's not specifically just wearing clothes. Now we're seeing it's something more than that. We have to define what that is. Good question. It's exactly what I pointed out. Very good. Meitveh. We have a question on the second language. Ha'avarat seyar is not midivrei Torah. Again, that Breita. It's midirabanan. How can you say it's midoraita of lo yilbash gever? Says the Gemara, Hu de Amar ki aitana. He says like the following Breita. Titanya, Hamavir beit Hashechi beit Ever. Yeah. Hariza over mishum lo yabash kever simlat isha.